Welcome to the Media Mavens Show, a fantastic fusion of health, wealth, and wisdom that will ignite your passion for life. I'm Aldwyn, also known as the Media Queen from Australia.
And I'm Kerstin Linnartz from Germany. We are here to take you on a journey of inspiration to help you grow in life and business and unlock your true potential.
With a combined 70 years of media experience, we share stories, insights, and expert advice that will empower you in all areas of your life.
The Media Mavens Show is not just another show. It's a candid look for answers to the big questions in life and a movement towards a better, brighter future.
This show transcends borders. We're connecting people and cultures globally.
So whether you're watching us online or listening to our podcast, buckle up to be inspired, informed, and ready to conquer the world.
Yes, hello and welcome to season 2 of the Media Mavens Show. So excited to be back with you after a bit of a break. Great to be here, Kerstin. How are you feeling?
Wonderful. I'm so excited about this season 2. And as you were telling me, with a lot more experience in hosting podcasts than I have, it's great when things keep going. We get amazing feedback from our listeners. We want to thank everyone who was with us during season 1. We took some time to evaluate, to analyze, to create new ideas, and we can't wait to share season 2 with more exciting and enlightening topics on health, wealth, and wisdom. So super happy to be here again. I missed you.
Yay, I missed you too. Too. So great having this collaboration from Germany to Australia. And thank you so much for all those who've been sending us lots of love and saying how much they love the show. And season 2 now is going to be monthly, okay? The first Tuesday of the month around this time, wherever you are in the world. So it'll be around the 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for those in Australia around this time part of the world, and for those in Germany around Central European Standard Time, CEST or CET, depending on the time zone. It'll be around your midday, so around the 12-ish mark for you guys over there. And today's topic, oh my gosh, it's a doozy that we're coming back with, because I know a lot of people are feeling it. I know it's something I've certainly had challenges with over time, and that is how to overcome overload. Now, this is a topic, Kerstin, that you deal with a lot with your clients. So I know you know a lot about this topic. So I would love for you to share with people, what is the difference between overload and overwhelm?
Well, they're actually very, very strongly connected. And most people nowadays, I would say at least half of anyone who's running a business, who's an employee, who's a working mother, whatever it is, it knows the feeling of overwhelm from the overload. So it's important to differentiate the moment that you are dealing with overload, which can be juggling business and family, which can be too many projects, which can be maybe creating a new business or expanding in your business, whatever it is that puts more on your plate than usually is an overload. So the load is getting too much, right? And if you are not in control of your mental state, of your mindset and your emotions, this can turn into a feeling of overwhelm. You know, there's positive and negative overwhelm. You can be overwhelmed by joy, which is beautiful, something you want to bask in. But when it's a negative overwhelm that's coming from an overload in whatever area of your life, it can be very uncomfortable. It can lead to a decrease of your well-being, but even more, it can lead to, if this stays for too long, it can end up in stress-related health symptoms. It can end up in burnout. It can end up in feeling of depression resulting from this feeling of powerlessness, of the loss of control. So overwhelm, as most emotions, comes in a big variety, but it's definitely something that you need to address. And the earlier you address it, the more likely you get out of it. And when you address it in a good way, when you attain instruments and techniques how to become the master, then you will not only remove the feeling of overwhelm, which is always a feeling of not being in power of the situation, but you will also reduce the overload, because you will actually learn learn how to structure your day better, how to organize your work-life balance better, and how to turn the overwhelm into a real productiveness, into really getting your things done and really slay your stuff. I know it's a lot, but we're going to cover it in the next hour or so, because I want our viewers and listeners to become those super people, right? And this is not about becoming a robot and ignoring your feelings. It's just the opposite. The more aware you are of your feelings and your emotions, the better you're able to handle the overload, to not end up in overwhelm.
Oh, I love it. And, you know, we both have a background in media. And I was just sharing off air earlier how it's been an ongoing thing for me where I've had, you know, anxiety around the whole time thing, right? About how fast time goes. And I know working with newspapers, when I was working with the daily newspapers, it was just constant go, 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 go. And it was always this meeting deadlines constantly, like you might have half an hour to whip a story out. And it was just, you know, and I would find that I became really good at working last minute. In fact, I would get a lot done last minute where it might take me 5 hours to do things earlier in the day. But if I left it to the last hour, I'd be able to pump it out really quickly, right? And it's become like a habit over time now. And I've realized that I've had this sort of anxiety, and there is actually something called time anxiety out there, when you get to the end of the day and you feel like you haven't done half the things that you wanted to do for that day. And I realize also that I have taken on a big load also. I keep taking on more stuff. And so it's another thing to actually get conscious of the overload, which can then lead to the overwhelm. And as much as I do yoga and I do mindfulness and I do meditation and I do all these practices to remain calm for most of the day, and sometimes it works really well and sometimes it doesn't. What are some ways that you could give to people who may have struggled with this through their lives, like I have, in actually, you know, being able to be ultra organized and get things done well before time, rather than constantly leaving things to the last minute?
Yeah, it's interesting what you're describing. And actually, it is quite typical. You are a high-performing personality, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be as successful. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had this career in media. This doesn't happen to the slowly comfortable, a little bit more lazy people. The high performers, those who achieve a lot in their life, they have an underlying almost addiction to a big load. And when I work with my clients, that's always the first thing that I do with them, to look at their personality, because there's different personalities and you can't deal the same way with different personalities. With some people, it's about activating their battery. It's about getting them out of procrastination, getting them out of the fear of failure. And that's a whole different approach than directing the energy of a high performing individual, because it's those people who end up in burnout. Slow, comfortable people don't end up in burnout. It's the high performers who end out in burnout, but they are also in a danger of overwhelm. You would think that a high performing person does never get overwhelmed. They always have their shit together, but it's so not true. If you look even at the most successful people who are very public with their work, who have created huge enterprises, who inspire thousands of people as speakers, when you listen to them talking about how they sometimes feel or how they get very close to a heart attack. I just listened to a podcast of Ed Milet, whom I admire a lot, and he's been in the business for over 30 years, right? I mean, he has a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And when he entered, I think it was his mid-40s, his cardiologist told him, if you keep going the way you are going, you will not be able to lead your daughter to the altar once she's getting married. And that was his turning point, where he pivoted and where he really understood. I mean, he was successful. He was making a lot of money. He had a best-selling book out, you know, but what he had not learned was the art of slowing down, the art of conscious recreation, and the art of recalibrating his subconscious. And this is something that is 100% needed for a high performer, the ability to relax, to slow down, because in our relaxation mode, this is when the nervous system is allowed to store all the information, to recalibrate, when your nervous system, your adrenal system, they go down to a bottom line, right? If you just keep going, you might be building a lot, but it's quite unlikely that you build something sustainable, because eventually there might be a heart attack on the physical level. For sure, there will be something like a burnout. And also for sure, there will be the feeling of overwhelm, because we are human beings made of flesh and bone and nervous cells and emotions. And even the highest performing individual is dealing with those things. And if we ignore those things for too long, our body, our nervous and adrenal system, they will send us a strong signal, resulting in the feeling of overwhelm, telling us it is too much. And this feeling of it is too much is always a sign that you need to change your habits, right? The feeling of overwhelm with people who are not the high performing individuals, but who are maybe a little bit weaker, a little bit more sensitive, they get the feeling of overwhelm much faster. But with them, it has to be a different approach. It's less about showing them how to slow down, but it's about showing them how to activate their doing, how to go into their center, into their core, in how to be more productive throughout the day. Because with them, very often the feeling of overwhelm is resulting from, I don't know how I can do this. They don't have the confidence. They don't believe in themselves enough, to be convinced that they can get this done. I've got this, right? So there's different approaches. You need to always analyze the personality first and then support a person. In your case, to answer your question, very high performing person, always like on the go. You were a professional athlete with your table tennis, which is a super fast sport on itself, right? In your media career, fast, deadlines. The underlying pattern behind that has a reason. So you always want to understand with your left brain, where does your addiction to speed, to this last minute, to this adrenaline rush, where does it come from? And most often it sounds like cliche, but I mean, cliches come from a big portion of truth, right? It always stems from our upbringing. So I'm just blobbing out an example. I'm not saying this is how your upbringing went, but most often in a high percentage of my clients that I work with, the high performing individuals, always going over their borders, right? Always having their boundaries crossed, always exploiting their own energy level to an extent of feeling overwhelmed, putting too much overload on themselves. It stems from a childhood where they were either not recognized enough, where there was not enough unconditional love. Maybe they were brought up, or they grew up in their childhood with a feeling of having to prove themselves, of always doing a little bit more than maybe their siblings, right? I have high performing CEO women that I'm coaching who maybe grew up with brothers. And back then in our generation, like 30, 40, 20 years ago, when they were growing up, maybe they were not valued as much as a girl. So they established in them the belief, I need to do more. I need to perform stronger to be accepted as much as my male peers, as my brothers, as my schoolmates, and so on and so forth. Which, yes, can lead to a successful career, because, as we said, right, it's not the slow people who burn themselves out, but it's also not the slow people who build a big business, who have a shining career. But on the other hand, there's a big likelihood of crossing your own boundaries so much that you navigate yourself into this feeling of overwhelm due to the overload that you pack onto yourself, right? It's always about conditioning. And you were mentioning before we went live, you were mentioning how still nowadays sometimes you have those super full days and you push yourself to this last minute thing, right? And then all of a sudden the feeling of overwhelm is kicking in. So why is that? Our mind is, in German, we have a word called Gewohnheitstier. So there's a strong, almost addiction, or the mind loves things to stay the same. So once the mind is conditioned to a feeling, to a trigger reaction, it wants to recreate that feeling again and again and again. And the subconscious doesn't care if it's a positive or a negative emotion. It doesn't care if it's good for you or not. It doesn't care if it brings you closer to your goal or if it sabotages you, right? So even if it is pushing things to last minute all the time, when you have been conditioned to do so, there is a strong subconscious urge to always create that again. And this is a pattern when people feel, and this is what I do with my clients, when they feel it is sabotaging them, it's not helping them, it is hindering them, in going for their goals, or it is pushing down their immune system, their overall well-being or productivity. This is a pattern that needs to be transformed, right? So on the one hand, you want to look at the underlying beliefs. Why is it you do that all the time? Then you want to remove that. This is like taking out the root, of a plant. I'm a passionate gardener. So you want to remove the roots of the plant that you don't want in your garden before you plant something new in there. Otherwise, there's no chance of establishing a new habit, right? So it's very important to understand the core reason for those habits and for those beliefs, and then lovingly, from a point of self-care, not of fighting it off, but lovingly remove it with the root. That takes a little bit of time and work and maybe guidance of a coach, and then instill new habits. For example, if you don't want to come into this feeling of overwhelm any longer, of structuring your day differently, right? Believing a different mindset in regards of how much do I need to do to be productive? Big difference that people need to understand. There's a big difference between busyness and productiveness. Some people are busy for 12 hours per day, but at the end of the day, they actually produce less needle moving results than somebody who might only work for 4 or 5 hours per day, but does it so focused and so goal and result oriented that they actually produce more, results than the person who's busy for 12 days. So as you can tell, it's the multi-layered approach, right? Like everything, we are complex beings at the end of the day.
Oh my gosh, I can relate to just about everything you said there. So true. I look back at my life and I think, I was brought up as a first generation Australian with Greek, Turkish, Ukrainian blood. And my parents migrated from Turkey. And in Turkey, what is a very common thing is the guys hang out with the guys, the fathers hang out with the sons, and the mothers hang out with the daughters. And I always wanted my dad's attention and affection. And the way I got it was by achieving in table tennis, was by achieving in my grades. And so I became an overachiever. I became a very high achiever. And I know we've got quite a few people here on Instagram who also I know are high achievers. We've got Yoga here. We've got John Lazaro. We've got Holly Wolf AU. Table Tennis New South Wales have joined us. Hello, all my table tennis buddies. Gregory John is with us, and Tamara Marcus. And I know those on Facebook, I'm sure LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and X right now as well. I'm sure there's a lot of high achievers amongst us. And let us know in the chat. So pop a yes if you are a high achiever and if you can relate to anything we're saying here right now. It's absolutely a massive issue I find with a lot of people, and I've certainly felt this high adrenaline of wanting to be this high achiever. And in fact, I have my Gallup Strengths on. There's a personality test called Gallup Strengths, and the very top one that came up was achiever, was the very top thing on my Gallup Strengths, right? Which is and what they say about achievers is that while achievers, yes, they can achieve a hell of a lot of stuff, they've got to make sure that one of the first things that they do is each day make time for themselves. Otherwise, they would just she's doing everything for everyone else, and then they'll deplete themselves. As you say, they burn out at the end of the day, and then, you know, and then they start all over again. And then, and so that's been the habit for me. It's been go, 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 crash, go, 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 crash, right? This has been the habit, right? And often over time, there's been this thing about lateness too. I've you know, they say in time and on time people, and I've often find that I'm so in the zone, etc., that I just lose track of time, you know. And so this has also become a habit over the years. And while I've consciously been working on being early at places, and I do find I notice the difference when I'm early somewhere as opposed to last minute racing to get somewhere, it makes a massive difference with my peace of mind around getting to that event and enjoying that event, whatever it might be. But for years, you know, that has been a big challenge, and still occasionally it's still sometimes a challenge, because I tend to think, oh, I'll just do this before I go. I'll just do this before I go. And the next thing I know, you know, half an hour is gone, and, you know, and then I don't allow for things like there could be an accident on the road, you know, or whatever it is. So there's so much to this topic. And thank you those for joining us. We've got Robert Mull with us, Frank Byrne. Thanks for joining us. Let us know, have you ever felt any overload or overwhelm in your life, and how have you dealt with it? And so through this journey, Kerstin, and doing so much work on myself, so much work, the inner work, the outer work, you know, meditation was always a big challenge for me, because usually whenever I meditate, I would just fall asleep. I was that exhausted that the minute I shut my eyes, I was just out. And, you know, I probably did get the benefits of the meditation anyway. However, you know, I was that tired. And a coach said to me once, she said, you're addicted to adrenaline, right? You're addicted to adrenaline. And I see that, yes, that has been a thing for me. And now every morning I meditate, which makes the world of difference. Before I get out of bed, I put on a 5 or 10 minute meditation. However, still, even after the meditation, I still find there's times during my day where I find the anxiety can creep up. And so there's another thing I do is I play some relaxation music in the background, right? And I find that very helpful. Or sometimes, you know, I'll just play some music as I'll get into a fun mode around the house. And I'll just shift the energy, right? Shift from the stress to finding a peaceful state. So what are some other things we can do for those who have had any feelings of overwhelm or overload in their lives? What are some other things we can do to sort of snap out of it and you know, to create these habits of turning that around and shifting it?
Yeah, it's amazing what you say, and I want to address two of the things that you've been mentioning. The one thing is the time aspect, right? And bear in mind, there's overload and overwhelm. Please, everyone listening and watching, bear in mind this big difference, right? Overload is an outer circumstance, is a lot on your plate. That's step 2, right? To only put those things on your plate that actually move the needle, that will take you away from the overload. The feeling of overwhelm is always the correlated emotion of not being in control of your outer circumstances and your inner world. That's when people feel overwhelmed. And what you were saying about the timeliness, right? When you, and it's in 99% of the cases when people are being late, yes, there can be a traffic accident. Of course, there's some things that we don't have any control over. But in 99 of the cases when people are being late, that's self-made, right? It's always homemade. And I know I'm not free of that. When I was younger, it's actually quite amazing. I had an almost traumatic event in the beginning of my 20s. One of my oldest friends, she's absolutely my soul sister. Hi, Sandra, if you're watching, we up to today, over 25 years later, we still laugh about this incident, how she cured me from being the most unpunctual person. And you know about Germans, what they say about Germans. We're so much on time and we're so reliable and we're, you know, all of that. We've already been joking about that. And I was just the opposite. I was so Mediterranean with my time, you know. And back then I was working as an artist. I was a model. So I was used to, everybody had to wait for me till I showed up at this. I was horrible regarding that. And my friend Sandra, she had hosted a dinner party at her place. And for me, it was almost normal to show up 15, 30 minutes late, right? And I was like 21, 22 maybe. So that particular night, she was hosting this dinner, like a fancy dinner, 20 people invited to her house, super nice, everything, everybody dressed up. 3 courses dinner, right? So she put in a lot of effort and work in there. Me and my best friend, back then, we show up 30 minutes late, and this was not the first time. Absolutely not, right? People almost were used to me showing up late. So at that day, my friend had a tough day herself. It was a Friday night I will never forget. And instead of saying hi, I enter the room, everybody's sitting on the dining table, and she has a full rant at me. She's yelling at me, I'm done with your being late. This is so respectless. You are not respecting my time. You're always being fucking late. You are coming, fuck. And she was just going at me. And at this moment, I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed of myself. And I so understood how disrespectful I had treated my dear friend for years and years, and everyone I had been late for. And within one event, I completely got turned around. This habit of mine completely got cracked. And now I'm the most punctual person you can think of. I'm rather early than late, right? And of course, this comes with a whole set of habits that you need to change, right? You don't take as much time in the bathroom. I get a full night makeup done within 15 minutes rather than an hour, like in the past. I know the outfit that I'm wearing if it's a posh night because I put it out the day before. When I'm doing a business related, when I'm hosting an event, when I'm coaching a client, I prepare my things the day before. So I have my script ready. I have the information on my client ready the day before. So there's no way that some outer, unforeseen occurrence can take me away from being late. As I said, there are exceptions, but it's all about how you structure your everyday life and that you absolutely instill in yourself the knowledge, the truth that being on time is a expression of respect of the person that you're dealing with, right? Because you respect their time, you appreciate their time they're putting in. So all of those little things that can shift. And then to address the feeling that you were describing when you rush to a public event, to a business meeting, whatever it is, a family dinner, whatever it is, when you come there last time, there are so many low frequency emotions connected to that. There's embarrassment, there's shame, there is the feeling of failure. Why did I not make it on time again, right? Negative self-talk. Whereas, and this all brings you, we've talked about this frequency chart of positive emotions and negative emotions. So all of those negative emotions, they feed the amount of overwhelm because you are taking away your own control of the situation. When you're in time, this is the information to your subconscious mind. I am in control of the situation. I'm in control of my life. I make it on time. I show up right for my clients, for my friends, and so on. If you don't do that, you bring yourself closer to the feeling of overwhelm, because again, the overwhelm is the feeling of not being in control of what you need to be in control of, right? So it's the change of small habits in our everyday life for everyone who finds themselves overwhelmed too often. Look at those small habits and look at what you can change,
Oh, absolute gold there, Kerstin. I love that. And so true. It can be a real downward spiral when we don't honor our word or honor our word for others. When we say we're going to be there at 11, we get there 11:15, 11:30. And even though if I'm going to be late, I will communicate, right? I'll say, oh, I'm running late, or even after communicating, it still can lead to high anxiety and high stress, even after communicating. And yes, so much in that where I can relate. And it's not that we mean to be disrespectful if we're late. It's not that I've ever meant to be disrespectful of someone's time, but I know that the people who are really rigid with the time, they can get very offended if you are late, even 5 minutes late. And then there's those people who are usually like right on time that can get very offended if you're 5 minutes early, right? The other way, because they're using up every single minute to do stuff that last minute, right? It's a really fascinating journey, I guess, looking looking at how we do things and how, like, I know for myself, I take on a lot of stuff. So overload, yes, definitely. And people say to me, Aldwyn, you got to say no to a few things, right? You need to say no, you need to let go of some things. And, really considering the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, right? Okay, like you say, what's going to move the needle? What are the main priorities? What are the things to focus on? And I have my list of things to do. I've got my diary. I've got my A4 diary. I've got my calendar online. I've got all my little lists. Like I've got all these different systems for keeping on top of stuff. And and I've really been reevaluating for my life now. Okay, what are some things maybe I could let go of? Where could I let go of some of that overload to help ease the pressure a little bit, right? To just, it's like a balloon that's fully, sometimes you've got to let a bit of air out, right? And just give yourself some grace and fly around for a bit, right? And then
yes. Yeah, and that's actually one of the most powerful tools to get away from overwhelm, right? The feeling of not being in control, but also of overload is prioritizing. So often it gets recommended when you listen to podcasts or you read articles, and they're saying, okay, if you have too much to do, you want to delegate things. But this is what I see in more than 80% of my clients. So many people are not even in a position of being able to delegate things. Who are you going to delegate to if you don't have an assistant? Who are you going to give your child to if you don't have a family, right? So delegation is only possible if there is people to delegate to, right? So this is something that's not a tool that should be favored. This should not be your first choice. But what you absolutely can do, and this is in everybody's power, is prioritize. Maybe you're familiar with the Eisenhower matrix. Everybody listening, if you're not familiar with that, go Google it. There's gazillions of images of the Eisenhower matrix, and there's the 4 Ds, right? It's a square. You need to imagine there's the 4 Ds. 4 ways you can handle a situation. And if you integrate the Eisenhower matrix into the planning of your day, your week, your hour, your month, your every decision, you will get away from overwhelm and overload very fast. So the 4 Ds are do, decide, delegate, and delete. And in this square, you need to imagine there's the important things, the not important things, the urgent things, and the not so urgent things. So of course, the things you absolutely want and need to do are the important ones and the urgent ones. The things you can decide if you want to do them now or today or this week are the ones on the top right square. So they're important, but not so urgent. So this is the prioritization, right? Number 1 is urgent and important. Number 2 is important and not so urgent. And delegate, if you can delegate, or delay, do it another time, are the not important ones, but urgent ones. These are the ones, they're not so important. Your assistant can do them. Your team member can do them because they need to be done, right? Or you push them to tomorrow because they need to be done, but they're not as important as the ones on number 1. And then there's the ones, and that's so important, the red delete button on the top right, on the bottom right in the Eisenhower matrix, not important and not urgent. And this is, if you honestly ask yourself, everybody watching and listening, it's actually a fun exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things that you've been doing over the past month that were neither important nor urgent nor moving the needle. And 100%, including myself, I'm not a saint, I'm not a robot. There's so many things that we waste time and energy and focus with that are neither important nor urgent. So what I recommend to all of my clients who have a goal, there's a reason they come to work with me, right? It's either because they want to grow in their business, they are starting a business, or they are suffering from overwhelm and overload, and they just feel they can't handle the things anymore. One of the most important chapters of my method is the letting go, which can be sometimes, it can be a painful process, right? I'm telling that everyone, if you have habits that are so dear to your heart because you've been doing them for 20 years and they feel so nice and comfortable, but if they do not contribute to the things you want to change, the things you want to achieve, this is the time to let them go. And this doesn't mean forever, but for now, get rid of them, delete, right?
Yes,
So,
let go and let God, they say, right?
yes.
Let go and let God. And you know, it's very interesting what you say, Kerstin. Very interesting. What can we let go of? And even with a team, it can still be, you know, you can still have feelings of overwhelm and overload, even with a team. Now, I had 5 team members last year, and it was doing my head in, right? Because, well, for various reasons, you know, it took me a lot of time with the training, and, you know, clearly my systems weren't down pat, etc. And so now I'm back to one assistant in my business who's doing 50 hours a week, is doing a lot of hours, and I'm constantly delegating and, you know, looking at how I can build my systems. I'm not waiting for everything to be perfect before I delegate. I think it's very, very important to do that. And really, at the end of the day, it is learning to know what to say yes to. And I've got a little button for you here, the little yes button, right? Learning what to say yes or yes to, and what to say no to. No. No, right? What to say no to, what to say yes to, that's the big question. So what helps make this decision easier for people? Because we are in a time now, Kerstin, where people they have lots of things they want to do with their life. It's a busy, busy world, right? With social media, with stories and reels, you want to catch up on what everyone's been doing within 24 hours, right? You want to catch up on everything. Otherwise, it all disappears within 24 hours. And, you know, now we could spend just 3 hours a day just watching stories and reels, for example. That can be a massive distraction. So what are some ways to stay focused amongst all the distractions that could be happening around you in your day?
Absolutely. And so important. 2 things I want to address. What you were mentioning earlier, right? With your team of 5 assistants, reducing it to only 1. Another super beneficial tool to get away from overwhelm and overload is to simplify, right? This goes into the Eisenhower matrix as well. Sometimes we overcomplicate things ourselves, especially in a business, especially when you're the CEO or running your business, or when you're self-employed or you're employed and you're running a team. You want to look at the structure, at the system that you have created yourself. And so often we overcomplicate things ourselves. So it's about simplifying as well, because you want to have to make as little decisions per day as possible. Any decision we need to make, the yes or no, takes energy from our brain. It takes time away. It takes us out of the flow mode. You can't be in your highest performing flow state when you have to make a decision. Only when you're working on automation, because you do the things the same every single day, you can get into the highest productivity, because you're operating from a different area in your brain, from the subconscious, because it's automated and you no longer need to think about, do I do it that way or that way? Do I delegate the task to this assistant or this? If there's only one assistant, you delegate everything to them. It's simplification, is less decisions for you, which frees up more energy for yourself, gets your to-dos more streamlined, and makes you much more productive, right? That's the one thing. The other thing is the yes and no. How can I discern if something is a yes or a no? And this is an art. I actually have created a whole training. I was sharing it, I think, 2 weeks ago in my Facebook group. Anyone interested, come join the Power of a Woman Collective. I'm sharing weekly free trainings there. And I did a training called The Art of Saying No. And to understand when to say no to what, first of all, you need to discern, is this, and we come again to the Eisenhower matrix, is this something that's important? Is it urgent? Is it moving the needle? Is it bringing me closer to my goal? If there's a no to that question, get rid of it. I call my ladies, once they have mastered this art, I call them the Miss Teflons, because you create this layer of Teflon on yourself. And again, I'm not asking anyone to become an arrogant prick, you know, and to not take care of anyone and to not care how anyone around us is doing. No, the opposite is the case. When you protect your energy by saying no to the trivial things. There's so many trivial things that are not supporting our goals. If you learn to say no to those, you save up more energy. You bring yourself into a higher frequency to then take care of the important things, to take care of yourself, to then be a better mother, a better spouse, have more time for your cat, your partner, whatever, and whoever it is that you want more time and energy for, because you no longer waste your time and energy for trivial, unimportant things. So to allow yourself to take this second to pause and to really ask yourself, does it make sense? What's in it for me and my surrounding and my project and the people and animals and everyone I love? If I say yes to that, will equip you with the ability to discern if something is a yes and a no. And then the second thing is to actually be able to say no to the trivial, unimportant things that do not move the needle to where you want to go. You need confidence. And you can gain that confidence from really connecting you and grounding you with your big why. If you know why you want to reach that goal and you're strongly connected to that, you will have the confidence to very calmly, lovingly say no, but still say a no. No need to explain your no. A no is a no, and a no is a sentence in itself, right? You can just say, no, I'm not going to join this dinner tonight. Full stop. Not because blah, 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 and lose yourself in explanations and open the door for somebody trying to convince you, because that's what happens the moment you start to explain yourself. You're kind of sending out the signal, I'm saying no, but not really, right? And if you just tell them, I'm taking time, I want to work this weekend, so I'm not attending the dinner. In a friendly, loving way, no offense, no shaming. And this is also something that can absolutely be trained. I know especially many women have a problem with that because we were raised to say yes, to be the good girls, to always be friendly and always say yes and do a favor to people. So many women, even CEOs, have a problem with saying no and protecting their energy. But is a muscle that we can train. That's what I'm telling everyone. Your mind is a muscle that you can train just like the muscles in your body.
Yes, I know it's been a challenge for me over the years learning to say no. And I have learned to say no. In fact, I've been saying no a lot more lately because just about every day I get an invitation to something. And often I find nowadays there's 2-3 things on at the same time. And so I've been learning and practicing this quite a lot more, learning to say no. And we don't have to explain why it's a no either. We could, just say no. Just as you say, it's a whole sentence, just say no. And people will take that how they take it. They might think you're being rude, whatever, but, it is about what is important to you. What are your big rock things that you want to manage? What is it that's going to move the needle? And to answer that question, you've got to know what needle you want to move. Like, where do you want to go, right? And look at all the different areas of your life. And look at your health, your relationships, your family, adventures, all that kind of stuff, your spiritual fulfillment. You really need to look in all those areas. What are your big rock items in all those areas? Otherwise, whatever you don't focus on is not going to get done, right? It's not going to get managed. And that's really important to get that full spectrum to your life, to look at what is it that you want to achieve, what is it that you are here on the planet for, what is your purpose, what is your vision, what is your mission. And I think to reevaluate that every 3 months or so, even if you've looked at all that and you think you know where you're going, I think we sometimes need to just step back for a moment and go, okay, am I on track to where I want to go? Or maybe do I want to change where I want to go now? Do I want to tweak what my goals are? And I know I put a post on Facebook the other day about the strong solar energies going on at the moment. There's some full-on intense energy, and it was actually saying in this post that what's going to happen now is we're going to see people are going to be able to manifest their dreams even quicker. And so firstly, you have to know what your dreams are. And it's interesting. I was looking at this post and I thought, oh my gosh, I've pictured myself speaking on massive stages, right? And I've emceed on big stages at Woodford Folk Festival, etc. But I saw myself speaking on like a business type stage. And in 2 days' time, on Thursday, I'm going to be speaking at the Brisbane Convention Centre alongside Vince Vaughn and 3,000 people at this massive Power of Success event. And it's happening. You know, I saw it in my dreams. I saw myself speaking to massive stages, and here it is, you know, my 20 years of work that I've been, you know, working on myself and fine-tuning my speaking and what I do. And here it is, the rubber hits the road, or you know, with a Thursday in 2 days' time, it's manifesting, it's happening. And it's phenomenal that, you know, they say it takes a lifetime to be an overnight success. And I mean, I see this as just the start. Like, this is just one experience of that, but I see so much more after this as well. And that's the thing, is that, you know, if you can see it in your mind's eye, if you can visualize it, if you can feel it, if you can, you know, and I know this is channeled. And in fact, my dad said to me many years ago, when he kicked me out of home and I was on the streets, he actually had a dream, and he said, Aldwyn, I see you being, you know, he said later in life, he told me that when I was kicked out and when I was on the streets, he actually had a dream that I would be very successful one day, and that, you know, that I would be doing it. And at the time, he would never have pictured that. He would never have seen that in the situation I was at the time. So sometimes I think, you know, Dad always said, God has a plan for you. God has a plan for you. And whatever your spiritual beliefs are, this is not a religious conversation. You know, I believe it's a one God, one source energy. You know, there's a plan for all of us, I think, and we're all here for a reason. And I guess whatever reason we want to give that, and that's where letting go and letting flow, or letting go and letting God, back to the what can we let go of to allow the space to come through for whatever is meant to come through for our journey through life, for what is destined for us. And I think we will know that by what we feel and what we get attracted to, and what we you know, the more sort of meditation and inner work that I do, the more I connect to source, the more of these downloads come, the more that I see my future in front of me. You know, I saw for a long time I'd be interviewing celebrities, etc., which I did as a journalist for many years, as you did. We both interviewed some amazing celebrities in our time, and that journey continues, you know, and it's I feel that things are going next level now, which is very exciting, because if we want to have more impact in the world, it's going to take something. And I think if we can release the overwhelm while we feel the overload at times, and we can learn to be present in the moment. When I was looking up this information about time anxiety, it was saying, you know, take care of the moments and the years will take care of themselves. And what I do find is when I am present and I'm focused in the moment of what I'm doing and nothing else matters, I just get stuff done so much quicker. I become so much more productive, and I have so much more ease and flow with how I'm getting those tasks done. I'm not thinking about the next thing or worrying about the past thing, or, you know, and this is half the thing, I think, is actually just getting conscious to the conversations in our mind at times that can lead to this overwhelm, and actually just getting, oh, I'm being overwhelmed now, I'm being anxious right now, and what can you do to snap out of that state? And sometimes I just get out of my chair and I just shake it off, or I'll just play some music and have a little dance around, and then I'll just come back, and I'll come back to my breath. Right? I'll just go, okay, take a deep breath, and okay, now what is the next thing to focus on? And that's the thing, focus, right? Focus on and you know, I've been diagnosed ADHD. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are ADHD, and in fact, I think nearly everyone out there is ADHD now. And so sometimes it can be challenging to focus on something. So what are the things you do, Kerstin? I know you've been a yoga teacher, you've been in the ashrams, you've done it all. What do you do to keep the focus?
Beautiful. I there's so many things I want to address that you were mentioning. I loved how you were saying. I mean, first of all, congratulations to this huge stage with Vince Vaughn that you're there. So well deserved. And you are so right with this saying. It takes years to be an overnight success. And I also want to define, we hear so much nowadays about manifestation, right? And us as spiritual people who have been dealing with the, you know, spiritual realm and with the metaphysical aspects of things for years and decades. I mean, I started meditating over 30 years ago. So for me to speak about energy and to manifest things and to turn my vision into reality is normal for me. but it's a new concept to many people. And I think nowadays it becomes talked about more and more publicly. And like with anything that becomes more popular, there's a big danger of it being washed out and turn into this wishy-washy woo-woo thing. So with manifestation, it's very important to understand, and this is what happened in your case. You had this vision, you were seeing it, your dad was telling you that, but not only did you meditate on it and ask the universe to bestow it on you, like it's shared on social media, it's so dangerous. I mean, what we see on Instagram is oh my God, I find it so creepy sometimes that people are projecting the belief that you can just pray for something and light some incense and then your life will change and you make tons of money and millions of overnight. It's bullshit. You gotta, yes, you want to have a vision. You want to connect yourself emotionally to your goal, but then you need to put in the fucking work. If you don't put in the work in the real world, it's not going to happen, right? I mean, how many people win the lottery? I think there's more people who crash in a plane than those who win the lottery. So people, yes, manifestation can work. You can manifest your dreams. You can turn them into a reality in an almost magical way, but only if your prayers and your meditation are connected with real life actions. And this is what you've been doing for years. And that's why now you're in the harvesting phase of your life and you're getting the rewards for tons and tons of work. I recommend a movie I saw recently. It's with Will Smith. I think he got an Oscar for it, well deserved. It's called King Richard, and it's the portray of Richard Williams, the father of the Williams sisters. You know, the best tennis players in the world, Venus and Serena Williams. Go watch it. This is all about having a vision, which he had for his two daughters growing up in the ghetto as Black people. Tennis back then was a white people's sport. And not only were they the first girls of color entering this former elite sports, but they also turned into the very best because of the vision their father had, but also because of the belief, the confidence, and the discipline he instilled in them, practicing in the rain, practicing when other children were playing, but still allowing them to be children, protecting them from those who wanted to abuse them and wanted to monetize in them. Amazing movie. Such a beautiful example of how belief, vision, putting action steps, like real life work into it, and then having the patience to wait for years. It took 10 years for Venus Williams to play her first pro tournament. She was begging her father for years before he allowed it to her. But he was said, no, you're not ready yet. You're going to practice in the hidden. And then when you're ready, you go out and you will be the best player of the world. And this is what happened, right? Other thing I want to address to you, which I loved, and I know you just recently did a quantum training, so you know all about the quantum world now. It's amazing. This is also, thank God, getting more and more common knowledge because most people, those who are conscious and those who educate themselves and those who read more than watch TV more, and they learn more about the fact that we actually consciously can influence the quantum field around us. And this is absolutely no esoteric woo-woo. And I can explain that in a very simple example of how to turn your vision into reality. And I mean, at Advaita Vedanta philosophy, they've been talking about this thousands of years ago, right? So back then, through trial and error to meditation through enlightenment from inside, they had this knowledge. Is amazing, I think. But what we were talking about, the productivity, the flow state. If you bring yourself into a physical, mental, and emotional state of being physically healthy and fit through healthy habits, through eating well, through sleeping enough, through not putting bullshit like drugs and alcohol into your body, you're physically fit, you're capable of putting in the work, the hours per day. When you put yourself into a mental state through meditation, through focusing, through concentration, no distractions. I'm just focusing on my goal, into an emotional stability through connecting to yourself, again, nourishing your soul by choosing good food for your mind, for your soul, by choosing good company, the people you surround yourself with, by staying away from vices that put you in a lower emotional frequency. When you do all of this, and that's work that you put in, that's why nobody gets given this big success in a present, right? You put in the work. It's discipline and perseverance. What happens, and now comes the quantum secret almost, what happens, you will start to bend time, right? Because you will get more things done in a shorter amount of time. And if you combine that with a daring vision, like where I grew up, there was no way that this little girl from the village, coming from a weak social background, would travel the world, see almost every continent in the world, travel first class, go business senator class, live in the best 5-star hotels of the world. There was no way I could have achieved that, thinking reality and dreaming small. But because with me, interestingly, it was also my father who had this big vision for me. He said, you're made for something bigger. You're going to make it out of here, right? And with the work, the discipline, I bend time and space. And I actually ended up making so much money with a TV show in the beginning of my 20s, living in the world. There was no way I could have reached that doing the normal work, going the normal way. And this is where people who create something way larger than their upbringing, way bigger than their family, the ones who break the cycle of a family tree, all the first millionaires of a family, they have been bending reality by using the quantum field in their favor, by doing the right things, leaving out the right things. And it's doable. There's no magical woo-woo. There's no magic wand here. There's no Harry Potter involved. This is facts, right? And again, it requires discipline. I know it's unsexy for most people, and that's, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yes, I love that. My dad always said, actually, you've got to be organized and disciplined. He always told me from a young age.
I know.
I had a very strong rebel in me. So whatever dad said to do, I used to do the opposite. Now, I do get now many years later that he was saying it from a place of love, and because he really cared, he was saying, you've got to be organized and disciplined. And he said, when I was a kid, I used to leave. I used to do projects when I was in primary school. I'd leave them last minute, and I'd do. He said one night, you didn't sleep the whole night finishing this project, and you got top marks for this project. I was just I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I ended up being top of my primary school. But then I got kicked out of home and ended up failing everything in year 11. So I went on quite a roller coaster ride there through my teenage years, and very self-destructive. And thank goodness I've come out of that now. However, some of these things sometimes, it could even be in ourselves, some of these old habits, right? Some of these old habits could still be there, no matter how much clearing we've done and breath work we've done and, work we've done on ourselves, stuff can still come up. There's temptation all around. And mum said, wait till you have kids, then you'll know what we've been through. And so, of course, here I am at 50. I've never had kids. I've taken on some stray cats, and they've been very low maintenance compared to kids. However, there's strong rebellion nature, which I know a lot of people who are joining us here on the live stream. We've got Ortiz, Frank, Chloe Magic, What Works 99, Lil Knickers, Cancer to Wellness, Tristan Devaris, Isaac, Jen C, hello, and everyone we mentioned earlier, Guarded Body. I know a lot of people here also have a strong rebel nature, right? There's this strong, like, we know what to do, but actually doing it is a whole other thing, right? And so this is the thing, is, as you say, the discipline of actually, first having that awareness of what's going on, and then accepting what's going on without making yourself wrong or right about it. And then having an appreciation for everything that has brought you to this point. I think that's so important. And we just did a Media Queen TV episode earlier today. We talked about how to be an influential marketer. And we talked about those 3 steps: the awareness, the acceptance, and the appreciation, right? Those 3 steps to healing. And I love that. So actually, wherever you are, it's absolutely perfect. And wherever you're not, it's absolutely perfect. And it's all about, okay, let's start from a blank canvas. And what can we create for our life now, moving forward, to have the most empowered life and to have that discipline to actually bend time. I love that, bending time and getting into flow state. And I must say, I notice when I'm in flow state and when I'm in anxious state or when I'm in overwhelmed state, and I much prefer being in flow state. I much prefer it. It is an amazing feeling. And sometimes I sort of have to pinch myself. I go, oh my gosh, I'm in flow state. I've just, like, all this time's just gone. I've got so much stuff done. I've been so productive and I've had no stress around. I've just been cruising through the day, having a great day. There's nothing's a problem. Everything's cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of feeling when you're in flow state. It feels amazing. It's like you're floating on cloud nine.
Yeah, and that's what it is, in flow state, and that's actually scientifically proven. It's so interesting. First of all, you use way less energy in flow state because, as we said, the decisions take so much. The brain is the organ that takes up the most energy of a whole body, right? So if you need to make decisions all the time because you don't have routines, you lose so much energy. Whereas in flow state, there's only a very little amount of energy that goes into your brain, in your decision-making brain, but everything goes into your flow, into your productiveness, into the project that you're working on, or, being 100% with your child, whatever it is. And flow state takes way less energy. That's why when we come out of it, we have this positive after effect. Whereas in overwhelm, you were mentioning it earlier, we have this negative side effect. It's almost like a hangover when we've been drinking and drugging the night before. It's a horrible feeling, right? It's the same with overwhelm, because again, the subconscious belief is I'm losing control of my life, which can be frightening, right? It's a direction of anxiety, of depression, losing control of your life. Whereas in flow state, everything just goes and boom, boom, boom. You were mentioning the practice of appreciation. Another, maybe we address it last because I need to head off soon to pick up my little daughter. Another very powerful tool I want to share, not only against overwhelm, of getting out of the feeling of overwhelm, if this is a reoccurring thing, but also the fact of overload, right, is the practice of appreciation, of gratitude, of joyfulness. That sounds simple, it is, but still it's still powerful, right? Because very often what happens nowadays in this world where we're constantly bombarded with input, social media, all the media, the negative news, all this war, all these horrible things going on in the world, again, our activating system in the brain is very strongly drawn to the negative. When we train our mind to not only recognize, but to wanting to repeat positive gratitude, positive emotions, positive recognition, appreciation, a tap on the shoulder for what we have actually achieved today, this week, this month. Looking back, I hear that from so many of my successful clients. They keep going. And most often they only have in their mind what they still need to do, what they did not manage. Opposed to, rewarding themselves for what they have accomplished. A student of mine actually told me, she said, it's incredible. You actually have created 3 careers in your life. First, your huge media career, a nationally awarded TV show with 7 million viewers per day in mid-20s. Then writing several best-selling books. Then opening a retreat center in India. She says it's incredible. And now you're starting your 4th career with your online coaching. And I was like, oh, now that you mention it, I totally forgot about all of that. And that's what happens. Sometimes we are so entangled in what we need to do, what's going wrong, blah, 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 blah. Again, that's our nature. Our brain is trained on recognizing the negative more than the positive. So this is a beautiful tool to master, to train our brain to see the positive more than the negative. Again, it's a fine line. Of course, not ending up in the danger of, oh, I did my to-do list of this week, fine. So now I'm going to go on a 2-week holiday and I'm just going to waste the momentum that I've been building over the past month, right? So it is always a fine line. It's always about discernment of how much of rejuvenation, recovering, regeneration, appreciation do you put in to stay in a positive frequency, but still keep going, right? We're still not dropping the discipline. We're still not dropping the striving. And if you keep fueling this with this positive attitude of gratitude, what happens, despite the striving and despite the keeping going for it, you will way less go into this negative thing of what did I not manage to do? But you're so much after those positive rewards in your brain that sometimes you don't even want to have a weekend. It happens to me sometimes when Friday is coming. It's like, oh my God, I'm in such a good flow. And now I need to take 2 days off. But then, of course, I shift myself. I'm like, oh my God, I get to spend 2 days with my child. It's beautiful, right? But you know what I mean? You can get into this positive addiction of productivity, which is a good addiction if you train yourself of taking breaks, of purposeful recovery in between.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And you just reminded me of a time when I remember I was at a table tennis tournament in Melbourne, and one of the other kids came up to me and they said, "Oh, what does it feel like being the number one junior table tennis player in Australia?" And it just kind of stopped me. And I thought, wow, I didn't even think about it. I've just been doing my thing. I've just been getting on the court and I've been playing. And I never even entered my mind what it would feel like to be the number one Australian table tennis player, right? And this is the thing. Often we're so close to what we do, we don't see what we do. And other people can look at you and see all sorts of things. And when you're in that flow state, you're not even conscious to how you're coming across to other people or what that would be like. And it is like when they say, in the quantum field, in when you look at the heart energy center, when we come into the heart, time and space disappear. And so when you love what you do, when you're in that passion state in your heart chakra, in that whole energy center, you're using your heart energy, you're in that flow, and this is where the saying time flies, right? Time flies, just like it's flown today. We've already done an hour, right? We've been in total flow today with this show. If an hour has gone just like that, and I love that, and it just goes to show that the more you love what you do, the more that money will come. You don't need to worry about money. A lot of people stress about money, right? Finances is a big area of anxiety and overwhelm and overload for people, is the financial side. However, I've always said, love what you do, the money will come.
Yes.
And do more of what gives you joy.
Yeah, and it's all about conscience congruency. What you were mentioning, when your heart area is connected with your brain area, and your vision and your wishes and your soul's desires are in congruency with your actions, this is when the flow starts. And this is when the money will come, the success will come sooner or later. And the more work you put in, the sooner it will come, of course. And this is when work no longer feels like work, but like a pleasure, because then the setbacks, the failures will turn into learnings and challenges. And the long nights will be rewarding. When you love what you do, work no longer feels like work, but it's just a means of creating the life you're meant to live. There's actually a training I'm going to do in my group this week, connecting with your purpose, living and working with purpose. Because when you're clear about your purpose, why have you been put into this life, into those experiences? Why has your soul, if we want to speak about that, why has your soul chosen that life, that body, and that time and space? That's your purpose. And when you live your purpose, there are no setbacks. There's only opportunities to learn and to get better.
Yeah, I love that. Remembering that everything happens for you, not to you, my friends. Okay. So it's always, and this is what the successful, whatever you consider success to be, the successful people in the world, those who are in flow state and those who are making a massive difference in the world. One thing I've noticed is they all meditate and they all have great emotional intelligence, and they're able to look at challenges as opportunities, learn from them, grow with it. They have multiple mentors. There's certain things that you can see that a lot of the successful people all do. You know, they exercise, they look after their bodies, they, you know, they have that passion and that love for what they do. There's so many things, and it's such a hot topic, and it's been brilliant chatting about this today. And thank you so much, Kerstin, my amazing co-host, and for everyone who's joined us here on the live stream. So great to see you all. Let us know what you have got from this show today. Let us know in the comments, those on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and X. Let us know what's something you've got from this today, and can you relate to anything we've said? Love to know your comments, feedback, any questions you might have for us. And for those who want to work with you, Kerstin, how can they do that?
They can best go to my website, which is bebettercoaching.org. If you go to bebettercoaching.org/links, you will find all the ways. There's the link to my Facebook group where I'm sharing weekly free trainings on all topics on self-development for your business, for your personal life, for your mental and physical health. There's also a link to book a chat with me if you're interested in working with me one-on-one. There's group formats, there's online formats, all different ways for smaller budgets, for higher budgets. And yeah, I'm looking forward to anyone who's getting in touch.
Awesome. And please do go to our Facebook page as well, Media Mavens Show, if you have any specific questions for us, or you'd like us to cover any specific topics, or if you want to come on as a guest for one of our shows. As we mentioned earlier, this is a once-a-month show now for season 2, first Tuesday of the month around this time. Okay, so reach out if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover. And for those who want to connect with me, go to a linktree/Aldwyn. That's linktr.ee/Aldwyn. You'll see a whole lot of free resources to help get you out to be seen, heard, and known through mass media exposure. And also on there's my calendar link if you want to book a call to discuss anything like coming on our show, for example, and a whole lot of other amazing links. So YouTube channel's got over 1,200 videos on there. The Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen TV channel, check out some of the amazing content there, and some of the funny videos in there. I've put some of my favorite comedies in my YouTube channel as well, like the Stop It video. For those who've seen the Stop It video, that is awesome. And so many others. You'll get a good laugh there, which is another way to help get into flow state, is to bring that joy into your life. Any final comments, Kerstin, before we wrap up today?
Well, I want to encourage everyone who's facing overwhelm. Sometimes this too shall pass, which is also the quote I want to share today. You know, nothing is finite. Everything is just temporary. So believe in that, believe in yourself, and there's always a way out. And if you put in the self-development effort, and if you put in a little bit or even a lot of work, you will get out better than when you entered.
Yeah, I love that. That is beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Let us know what you've got today, guys. Let us know in the chat, and we would love to stay connected with you. And as Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. That is one of my favorite all-time quotes. And here's to getting conscious, my friends, to where you may have been unconscious around overload or overwhelm in your life. And what sort of life do you want to create for you? You know, we know that 90% of people die with regrets. A third of people die by the age of 65. So really, this is about you living your best life, to realize that you are a miracle of life just by being born. You're 1 in a billion just by being born. You've been a billion swimmers to get to the finish line, and you are here for a reason, and you are impacting people in your life, whether you realize it, conscious of it or not. And that includes yourself. So notice the conversations that you have with yourself. Notice when you are feeling stressed, anxious, overloaded, and what can you say no to, right? Some absolute gems we've shared on the show today. Thank you, Kerstin, for sharing your amazing wisdom with us today. And for all those who've joined us, please follow us, check us out on socials. Let's stay connected. And we'll see you again next month on Media Mavens Show. Bye for now.
Thanks for an amazing hour. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye. Lots of love. Bye. Bye. See you. Bye.